Tim Flemke is a rock star. At one point in his life, he was a history major pushing carts at Kmart. Today, he is the first junior copywriter at the agency that created 2 Superbowl ads with 30 people this past year. Tim is working at, you guessed it, Highdive. At the very least, this agency should ring a bell. You might have seen some of their mentions about their work with Bill Murray for the Jeep commercial Groundhog Day, or you may prefer their work with Jason Mamoa. You know, the Rocket Mortgage commercial where he takes off his muscles to reveal his true, comfortable self. Highdive won Ad Age's Small Agency of the Year as well as Adweek's Breakthrough Agency of the Year. They are located in Chicago. So, Tim is a rock star UIUC graduate with a knack for words that make you laugh and build brands. He preaches to stress less and work hard on your book, along with talking about onboarding digitally. His narrative is a must listen and it's just starting. So head over to our Instagram at Entering Ad to connect with Tim and learn about Highdive and for more resources. So let's dive in. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast, and I am your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Tim Flemke, welcome to the Breaking and Advertising podcast. How are you doing on this fine Sunday?
I'm doing groovy. How are you?
Doing groovy as well. I remember Armando used to say that a lot. Did you get that from him?
No, I don't actually know when I started saying it, but I think it was sometime in high school. I just started saying it. Now I don't even realize that I say it usually.
Yeah. Well, Tim, thanks for coming on. I'm super excited to have you. You are a junior copywriter at, drumroll please, Highdive Advertising Agency over here in Chicago. Now, a big year for Highdive. They recently were just awarded the Agency of the Year or Breakthrough Agency of the Year by Adweek. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, that one. And then
the media was like fastest growing too.
There was fastest growing. And then I think it was Small Agency of the Year, Ad Age. Was like earlier this year.
They have like silver and gold, and you guys were like the overall undisputed number one
at the champs. Not thanks to me yet. I was not there yet.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So did you write all the great ads that we know? The Groundhog Day one for the Super Bowl last year was a huge hit. When did you hop on board?
So I came in, I was trying to figure it out how long I've been there now. It was like early October, maybe the first week. I came in as an intern and then got some work sold, and now mid-November, I got the full-time offer. So just been working away since then.
Wow, incredible. So you started interning, and how long you interned for? You refresh me there.
It was originally a 6-week internship.
Interesting.
And then on the 5th week, at the end of the 5th week, I got my full-time offer.
Who does a 6-week internship? Is that normal?
I don't think. Well, the thing is, I don't think there really was like an internship program. And they kind of moved some things around and were able to get me in and give me a shot. I think it was kind of supposed to be like, well, give this guy like, give him an opportunity. I think especially with like COVID and everything like that, I'm incredibly appreciative. They kind of went out on a limb to help somebody out. I don't think they typically do internship programs like one you'll find like, oh, come to the Highdive established program,
Yeah, not yet, at least. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm like, it would be great to just see more young people in there and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, refresh us now. What are some of those big ads that you guys are known for? We know Groundhog Day, but for the listeners out there that might not be familiar with some of the work, we all know the name. My listeners will know the name, but they might not recognize some of the work. So list out a couple of those home runs.
So it was the Bill Murray Groundhog Day spot. That was huge. And it's like still huge internally. It's still, talked about. And then the Jason Momoa spot for Rocket,
Yep, that was
where
it.
he's comfortable at home, taking off all of,
That was awesome.
everything that makes him attractive.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We've been doing a lot of just cool stuff for Jeep in general, actually. Recently with that monolith, we had a team. It was really interesting just to kind of hear about it, because they came up with the idea to do a Jeep charging at the monolith for the new electric Jeep coming out, or hybrid Jeep. They came up with that at like 9:00 at night. There was a client meeting in the morning. Clients loved it, and then they headed out in under 24 hours.
Commercial? What was it?
It was just like an Instagram post of
I remember
the
seeing
monolith.
somebody retweeted that.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago now. But I think it was one, like in the top 3, maybe the top, most liked post on Jeep's page for this year. So
it was a teaser. It wasn't like was it the release date? It was kind of
I'd have to go back and look, but basically it was just about, it was kind of just hopping onto that monolith craze.
What a cool car.
Yeah.
Like the car brand to be working on. Jeep. I mean, my brother's got a Jeep. That's a loyal customer base. Obviously Harley Davidson's another huge one, but the Jeep Beep, the Jeep Wave, the merchandise that goes with the Jeep following.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a great brand to have in your portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I pretty much am able to kind of touch a little bit of everything. I have my main places that I work, but I've gotten to help stuff with Jeep, help on pretty much everything. So it is really, really cool to be able to have that kind of diverse array of writing styles and things like that.
Now this is going to be I'm assuming it's going to be a pretty heavily listened to episode, just due to the name Highdive, and you being a junior copywriter role. So there's a lot of different angles that we can go here, and there's a lot of topics that we should cover. So I guess how many, like, we could start off in college. I want to get to the meat of the conversation, which is how you got at Highdive. So give us a a brief overview, like what were your involvements in college? What were your internships like in college? Give us like those pillars that set you up for your first real agency job.
So, I mean, I started off in school as a history major, and I thought I was going to be a historian. And then I just realized, I don't even think I got a full semester in before. I love history, but I just realized it was just not really where I kind of wanted to spend my life. And so I still got the minor, though, which has actually come in handy a few times, random factoids for spots or whatever.
I'm sure.
So I then started looking into advertising, reading as much as I could, and I took the introduction class. I fell in love with it. And I know for a lot of people, they kind of jump around of, I want to be account, I want to be strategy. Maybe I want to try art direction. I don't know if I want to be a creative. I sort of right off the bat wanted to be a copywriter. And I think maybe it's because I just like the idea of creative, and I've never been too much of like a visual person as far as that goes. And I kind of enjoy writing, which, helps for copywriting. But I sort of had that narrow path in my mind. So kind of when I was doing things, I was always looking at how will this help with copywriting? And that I think was really beneficial then if you're questioning what you want to do.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, history majors, I'm assuming, how long were you a history major for?
I was in the major. So I had to finish out freshman year and then do a semester, one more semester before I could apply to switch, because I had to switch schools because one was liberal arts and one was college of media. And so it's like a sort of a convoluted process you go through to switch. So I was a year and a half as a history major, but I was able to kind of take some advertising classes along the way. So I wasn't totally behind.
Right. Right. And well, it makes sense. History major goes to copywriter. That kind of makes sense in my head. Like
Yeah,
the
lots of
writing, a
writing.
lot of reading and
Yeah.
writing. And as well, was there like did when you were studying history, or like maybe just in your general interests, did you stumble upon like old ads, maybe old TV commercials, kind of like relics of advertising? That kind of like
I think kind of like the whole creative revolution period of the 60s, I think was so many creatives drew me to it just because of the awesome writing, the great commercials and things like that. So
yeah.
I always loved the historical parts of the ads.
Mm.
But actually it was kind of fun because I started taking my interest in advertising and just kind of like folding it into the history classes before I was even out of school. So I remember I did this giant research paper, and it was kind of looking at like the, I guess, sort of back and forth between sort of the new feminist movement of the 1970s with the advertising of the age, and like some of the places where they made improvements and some of the places where there certainly was no improvement. And it was really interesting to dive into some of the less savory parts of sort of advertising's past, and things like that, and see how it affects society in general,
Sure.
both in negative ways, but also sometimes if they can do it correctly in good ways. So that was cool. And then I had another class that was all about military history, and then I was able to look at like propaganda and how the
Right.
advertising industry switched to propaganda during World
Yep.
War II. So it's like I could kind of make those classes fit together.
It's interesting. It's interesting. And that's one of the benefits of having that, those career aspirations pretty well thought out. Having that vision, you can, things start to fold together,
Yeah.
interests will collide. And that's all because, hopefully you plan it out that way. But,
Yeah.
and I noticed that too. When I was, the capstone at U of I, because we're both U of I alums, you do like a project for a client, and I remember the whole time the whole thing I did for the client was propose a podcast for them. Do a podcast.
Yeah.
Here's how you would advertise for the podcast. So I was basically doing that for myself, and that was
Yeah.
too.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. So internships, what were you rocking? Were you fortunate enough to have an internship or even multiple internships as you were an undergrad?
Yeah. So my sophomore year, I didn't know. I was always kind of out of the loop on stuff. So I was like, oh man, I'm probably a failure if I don't have one, which was crazy because I had only been in the program for a semester. So I ended up working at Kmart for a summer. That was
Kmart?
humbling. Kmart, that was humbling.
Where's a Kmart around here?
Well, one of the last ones ever. It was in Des Plaines here. So that was interesting, and not exactly helpful with advertising, but it gave me a lot of inspiration to really work hard.
What were you doing at Kmart?
I was pushing a lot of carts, and I was realigning the shelves, and I kind of did myself dirty because I was like really focused on making sure the shelves all looked great at the end of the day. But the problem was then they're like, oh my gosh, you put in so much effort on these shelves, so we're just going to like schedule you to close every single night. So that was fun. So that kind of inspired me to really put in effort so I could, hopefully be at some sort of internship the next summer, which I went to, I put together this portfolio, and I think really it wasn't that great. I put it together on my own. Lots of stuff I look back now and shudder, but I put in a lot of effort outside of class, put this stuff together, tried to come up with ads based on things around class, and I put a book together. And I must have applied to like 70 places, and I just started emailing people, like just emailing the place with like these really kind of cocky messages of like, hi, meet you're a new intern, stuff like that. That didn't
This
get
is
me.
Interesting. I want to hear from a copywriter's perspective. What do you say in those emails? What route did you take? You said you were a little confident.
Yeah, I mean, those probably weren't great, but I mean, now I would say like reaching out to somebody or something like that, I think it's good to add a little bit of like kind of personal flavor. It sounds weird, but like I have a little bit of a personality. I think I don't know. They say like you're supposed to always be creative, but I think it's also on another level of like, I don't know, think of it as like you're writing an ad when you're emailing somebody. Like, can you make them laugh a little bit? Can you, I don't know, maybe you love a piece by them. You know, I've done that before for people whose work that I've loved. And, you know, I'll mention a specific piece and say, this is one of my favorite things you've done or something like that. And it's like, okay, are you, you know, what, maybe, how are you persuading them to get back to you? And
it's like
I
a pitch.
Yeah, basically. And, you know, with LinkedIn, you only have like 250 characters, something like that. Note. So yeah. So how do you, you know, how can you make them say this person seems normal and like not crazy? So I want to talk to them, you know? And I think most people do want to talk.
Yeah, sometimes. And sometimes they just don't respond, but that's it.
Yeah, that's the other fun part. Or they get back to you like 3 weeks later.
That's crazy. Like, it is crazy to me. Like the fact that it'll take people 4 weeks, like, hey, like my bad, I don't check my LinkedIn. Like,
you're like, it's a giant red bubble.
It's like one of my favorite apps to actually like get a notification from.
I know. I check it more than like Instagram now, but you know,
I don't know about that for me, but I could see like,
well, I'm not, I don't have many followers anywhere. So I'm just like, all right, LinkedIn is where I can be cool.
Yeah. Where were we at? So you were emailing all these different places. You said 70 plus. You probably put your personal flair on it, like you said, flavor. Who responded back to you?
So, I mean, I got a lot of rejections, a lot of no rejections, but I got rejected, but a lot of just no emails back, which
they should go to hell.
Is always, yeah, I know. It's always, to me, it's like, you can't just put together like a mass email. Like, really like, you know, you see some of these insane, you know, projects where we're like, we're going to trace with a satellite and then deliver Oreo cookies with drones. And you're like, and you can't send like a mass email that says
true.
But anyway,
so true.
But I eventually used Handshake, which I don't know if that's just a U of I thing or if multiple places have that.
Yeah, it's like for the listeners that don't know, Handshake is like just another connection platform run through a university to connect students with recruiters. I think other schools have it and they might use different ones, but yeah, you were using Handshake, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Usually sucks.
It's weird to use, but I got really lucky, and I think I hopped on something early. It was Epsilon in Chicago, which they got bought by Publicis, and now they're Hawkeye. But they had a junior copywriter position open in Chicago. Not junior copywriter, sorry, internship, copywriting internship, and they. You know, I sent out my stuff. I got an email back. They're like, hey, we're just going to do a screening call. And dumb me, I didn't realize it was an interview. And I think I just talked her ear off. But I think I knew, I at least sounded like I knew what I was talking about.
Oh, wow.
And then I got, you know, it was kind of interesting. And I think it's like this with a lot of jobs. Like everything is like double the amount of time they say it's going to take. Like, oh, we'll get back to you in a week. It's going to take 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was pretty dour. You know, I got another interview with a couple of copywriters there and stuff like that. And they were really interesting. And, you know, I must have sounded like I knew what I was doing. And I got the position and I worked down there for a summer, and it was so much writing. And I think the biggest thing that I learned there was how to use the delete key. I mean, you're a writer, so you want to write, you want to write everything and make it cool, but it's like, you know, just the repetition of like, all right, cut this down, or, you know, can we add pauses here, stuff like that. So I learned just absolutely a ton. And I think it gave me a really big leg up once I started getting into more legit creative stuff at school, to like know more of just, you know, one, conceptualizing things or concepting, but also two, just the craft of what makes a good line.
Yeah, yeah. I think I read somewhere, like whatever you write down, you're gonna have to end up like deleting or taking out like a third of it or a
Yeah,
third of it at least.
absolutely. And then when you're doing spots and they're like, okay, we've got 30 seconds, you're like, 30 seconds? Oh my God, that's so much. And now you're just like looking at it, and you're like, oh my God, we got to take that out too. Oh my God. I mean,
Right.
you gotta really be precise with what you're writing.
Well, it's the attention, like it's just an attention thing. Like if it's
Yeah.
long and like these podcasts, we're not putting we're not getting millions of listens because it's an hour long.
Yeah.
And I get that, but the attention thing is difficult for people, for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. No, I'm horrible with watching movies.
Yeah, I'm bad at watching like sports games. I love football and stuff, but I just can't, like sitting there that whole time is tough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not good with long bouts of doing the same thing.
Yeah. So Epsilon, what do they do? And you submitted your portfolio. Was that a part of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I submitted my site. I think there was, looking back, I think the work was kind of lackluster, but I think I had or showed at least some sort of innate, even if rough, maybe ability to write at least. I don't know if conceptually they were the most interesting or crazy things, but I think I just learned the writing from writing so much for history. And then also with history, after a while, you've written the same thing over and over again, or there's this style of academic writing, and after a while it just grades on you, so you find new ways to make it interesting. And I think I kind of learned a lot of my writing ideas and thoughts through doing that, and I think those chops kind of helped out with that portfolio.
Cool.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. So you were at Epsilon, and then real quick overview on what they do. Is that a creative agency? Is that a media agency? What are they up to?
so they were so Epsilon was like a big company. I mean, they still are, but now they're I don't quite know how it's all fitting together now, but they're part of Publicis.
Sure.
And so they're a huge data agency for a large part of it. Then they've got like auto, health, and then I was in the agency portion, and
Nice.
Chicago was like the central kind of agency portion of it. But they ran the gamut. They did like shopper, but then they also did like digital, and then some TV and stuff like that. So they kind of did a little bit of everything. So I was learning how to write. Someday maybe I'm writing a shelf talker, and it seems like a small thing where you're like, okay, a shelf talker on a grocery store shelf. It's not going to win a lion, but it's you're trying to write a selling message there, and so it's like, you can maybe put 5 words on there. Those 5 words better be good. And so kind of learning through that, and then maybe the next day you're writing social copy, and then the next day you are pitching for some sort of a campaign. Maybe the next day you're putting together a deck. So it was kind of learning to write in all these different formats.
Lesson there is every kind of task that you have, whether it's big or small, whether you're writing for a commercial or a shelf talker, do it well. Do everything to the best of your ability, because you can get noticed, you get better jobs, you can get promoted, however you want to, or you just get better in general, right?
Yeah, which will in turn get you promoted and get you better briefs and stuff like that. So
That's right. Cool. So then I want to really talk about how you broke into Highdive, because that is awesome. I mean, and just kind of like the details and the process there. Was there about like 1 million interviews, or was it just like we need somebody ASAP?
I wish that's the thing, is I wish it was like more kind of a little bit more exciting, but I think it was a story that kind of is helpful in terms of like networking and using your resources to the best of your abilities,
which is what we love.
So I basically kind of the process for me, at least in a way, started right before COVID. I went into Peter's office, creative professor, for anyone listening, and I was like, listen, what am I doing? I I'm not that great at reaching out to people. At the time, I wasn't very confident in my book and stuff like that. And I was like, I really want to network, but you've taught every creative that's come through here for the past, I think, like 20 years. I don't want to make him sound older than he is. But is there someone you can, put me in contact with? And so he had a student who, his name was Pat. He was an not ex. He was a student, but now he's a group creative director at Highdive. And so he's like, I'll put you guys in contact. And then I didn't hear anything, and then COVID hit, and then it was like really dour for a while there. And really, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. So we just kept working. Kept working on my book, and then a bunch of us from that class put together another class over the summer where we all kept working on our book. And we invited the professor to kind of hop in the Zoom calls and help and stuff like that. And after a while, I got an email in I want to say July, and from the professor, and he basically said, hey, I've emailed Pat, and he's offered to help and take a look at your book. So I was like on cloud nine. Nice. I had no idea what to expect, really. I was expecting maybe, hey, here's some tips and we'll keep you in mind or something. Sure. But we talked, pretty soon after that. He's an incredible guy. And he basically, he liked my work, and he basically said, I'd love to maybe have you help with a few freelance briefs or something like that, which to me was big, because I would never be like, can I work there? But then I didn't hear anything for a long, long time. And it's just, at an agency Highdive's size, and then especially over the summer, because it's been growing even since I've been there. Right. It was just incredibly busy. So I didn't hear anything. So I kept networking. And now I've met tons and tons of people. I kept networking. I was thinking maybe I'll move out to the West Coast, which I think is still a dream of mine. I think I've listened to too much rock and roll. So California, and want to go see what it's all about. But, I kind of put it on the back burner, and then, I kept working on my portfolio, which I think this is an essential part for anyone, is all the networking in the world is only as good as your book. So, keep work. Even if you think you have something in the bag, just keep working.
I like that. I like that.
So I kept working on it, and then out of nowhere, I got an email in late September, and it was like, hey, I think we can get you in for 6 weeks. Won't pay great. We'll, we're not quite sure what we'll have you on, because we don't have an established internship program. And I was like, yeah, anything. Yeah. Get me in the door.
Wow.
And I got in, and I think the coolest thing is I think it benefited me, it not being an established internship program, because there were no real limits on what I could be involved in or what briefs I could tackle. It was sort of anything that came their way, they were like, hey, take a shot at it. Anything big, small, whatever, they're like, okay, that's one more brain working on it.
Yeah.
And so, and then eventually, because of that, I was able to get, kind of the thing that I think clinched it for me was that I got some work sold. And so that was, I don't think that was the expectation of me. Not that they were like, oh, he's going to come in here and be an idiot. But I think by working hard on the small things, like you were talking about earlier, I was able to, set myself up as a really good candidate. And
paint me this picture now. So what'd you get sold? How did this get sold? Who bought it? What was that process like?
Yeah. I don't know if I can say it exactly client stuff, but we had some scripts that we were working on, and
was it a commercial or?
We got some commercials written, and I sent some in. It was kind of like, hey, we have this due later. Can you, can you, why don't you take a shot at them? And I think I just, had like a lucky day that day. And I still remember, as glamorous as like Mad Men and stuff makes advertising seem. I was sitting at my kitchen table in, an old t-shirt and sweatpants writing, eating Cheez-Its. Wasn't like, this big Hollywood kind of thing, but sometimes you just kind of get on a roll. And I sent them in, I didn't hear anything, and it was like, hey, great stuff. I was like, okay, cool. I heard back and like, this is going really well. And I was like, no, all right. And then later it was, I saw the deck, and it was like most of my stuff had lived so far, because there's so many rounds of revisions and stuff.
And who's
like
reviewing this? This is the creative director.
Yeah. So with Highdive, you can have, it's kind of interesting because I believe I think I'm the first junior copywriter that was there.
Sure.
So you don't really have a bunch of junior teams. It's a lot more of CD teams and ACD teams, and then like freelancers that come in. And so kind of my stuff just gets thrown in the mix there. So it usually goes, and the person reviewing it is like the group creative director.
Okay.
And then whoever else higher up. So like internal reviews, and then eventually after 1 million of those, they go through to the client. And then, that was the thing too, is like, I wasn't on a lot of these, like I wasn't on client calls and stuff like that. So I didn't quite know how it was happening. And then it was like, like a week or two later, it was like, your stuff sold. I was like, really? Okay, cool.
Wow.
And then, so I was just kind of like writing that, but it's interesting being at home. I mean, it's really exciting. And I chalk it up to luck, because I just had some sort of inspiration that day. But it didn't like seem quite real. And then, they were like, no, this is like really cool. And then it was kind of winding down, and I just got an email, and it just said, is there life after death? and I got put on, I had a call at like the end of the day on a Friday with Pat, and then one of the owners, and I got, the offer. It was like, wow. And it's weird too, because I still haven't seen the inside of the office, and I haven't met anyone really, except for like a quick 5-second thing where I had to pick something up downtown. Yeah. So it's like really crazy. And it's such an unbelievable opportunity. And like I said, I just feel so incredibly lucky to have it.
Yeah. I mean, we got to talk about, what is it like onboarding virtually? You just said that you really haven't worked in the office at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the usual questions are going to be, is it, do you feel like an outsider, I guess? How are they doing like to welcome you in? Is there a creative block working at home? You can answer all of those, or what's your take on the whole virtual onboarding?
I mean, personally, I think most people, at least on the creative side, and I know at Highdive, would rather be in person. Yeah. I think the really great thing about Highdive that I've found, and not that I have like tremendous experience of like being at other agencies, of like, a wide breadth to look at, but Highdive it sometimes seems like more of a collection of friends than of coworkers. And I think that's really cool. I mean, we do like morning calls every day where, it's just like 15 minutes. It's not really work related. It's just like, hey, how's everybody doing? You can be on or not. And so, like my first official day, everyone went on there and introduced themselves, and there was like icebreakers and stuff like that were a little bit more. Right now there's, I think 32 or something like that.
That's awesome. Wow.
So it's easy to meet everybody. But yeah, I've kind of slowly been able to, get to know people better, things like that. I think once we're in the office, it's going to be a ton of fun. As far as like the creative block thing going, I don't know. I think right at the beginning of COVID, when I was working on my book, I was having a lot of problems with it. But I think also there was a lot going on in the world that sort of I think a lot this year, there's been a lot of times when a lot of people have had more important things to think about than, writing some ads.
Yeah.
And so, but like working here, it helps that, now I'm getting paid to do it. But,
Yep. True.
like my style, I walk around a lot, and I kind of, when I'm writing and stuff like that, and it's sort of helped because I can be as loud as I need to, just like walking around through rooms, pacing back and forth and things like that at home. And I don't look like, I look like I'm crazy. It's just nobody can see it.
Yeah.
And then
That's
just
nice.
like walking around the block and stuff like that. So I think, there are times when it's like not been helpful, like
You're
if
making
I'm,
do though. And you're doing well,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah. I hope so. We'll see what
Oh.
everyone thinks later.
Yeah, you'll find out. I mean, what do they do? A 6-month review after 6?
I'm not quite sure how it works.
You just keep doing your thing.
Yeah, I don't ask questions. I just, I just do it. And then it's like a meeting will show up and I'll be like, okay, I should probably do that now.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, is it stressful? Are you stressed out every day, or you kind of got the hang of it now?
I'm less stressed than I thought I would be. I mean, there's the stress of like, I got to get this done, or there's projects, but it's
good stress.
Yeah. I mean, I genuinely love the job. I genuinely do. And I get excited to do it, even when it's a tough brief.
Yeah.
And I love the writing and I love the challenge. So I'd say that there is stress, but also I think Highdive also has an environment where it's like the work will be as good as I write it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if I write something great, no one's going to tear that down. Like if that's going, that's going to be great. If I don't do as well, somebody else will probably write something great and beat it. So I think that's a lot of good personal motivation to do good work, is that it's like, I can throw something out there that's, a pipe dream or something wild out there, but it's, if it's a great idea, it will get rewarded or commented on. And so I think that really helps with it. I feel like all of my work and all of my effort is not always rewarded. I guess I'm trying to look for the right word, but it's like, I don't think it's wasted effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's always an opportunity for, like you said, something can get sold and, actually execute within weeks or months. Is that the benefit of working at a 35-person agency? Because,
Yeah, I think definitely that, like I said, because I get to kind of work on everything, when I have, some weeks I'll be meeting with a client, I have 3 meetings in a day and they'll each be for a different client.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that gives you a lot of opportunity. And I would say, there are some things that I'm better at than others. And so maybe I can kick some ass in one thing, but in the other where I'm not very good at it,
Mm-hmm.
The work will be getting killed, but I'll be learning. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that's where they really thrive. And then just kind of like a total lack of any kind of politics or anything like that too. It's like, the expectation is to get the best work out the door. And, it can come from an account person. It can come from a strategist. It can come from an art director or a copywriter or anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy to think that what were AAF clubs were you in? Were you in MO?
Yeah, I did Midnight Oil. I think 2 years, right? I think 2 years. Or no, I did 1 full year of MO.
Well, isn't it crazy to think MO has usually 50 people, and MO, to those listening, is a student agency at the University of Illinois. It has 50 people, give or take.
Yeah.
That's more than Highdive. And it's just,
that. Like, learning and just kind of the stories behind some of the spots and stuff like that. Just like it kind of goes to show when you have such incredible talents together, how much you can really pull off.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's cool about Highdive is, I'm an ad geek too. So like, I love ads. As nerdy as that is to say, I love watching them. I watch them on YouTube and stuff. And it kind of feels like I'm walking amongst giants a lot of times. and, you know, to kind of run with the big dogs. And, you know, it's great because I get a very personal relationship with everyone where I
Yeah.
get to meet them and really talk to them. And, you know, there are so many, I mean, everyone there is so accomplished at what they do. And they're so talented and great to learn from. And they've done such cool work. Sort of forgot where I was going with this, but we're talking about the size. Yeah. So it's really cool with it sort of feels like somebody put together like the A team, and and I'm just like watching and getting to like be there and nerd out the whole time.
Right. But now you're a part of it, you know, and you're learning with them. So that's awesome. Day to day, what can your day look like on average? Are you, and everybody says on this podcast, every day is different. Like I don't do the same thing 2 days in a row. I get that, but you know, try your best to say like, what do you do like an average week?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, you know, it kind of depends on, you know, kind of like where we are in a certain process. Like, let's say we're pitching, then,
yeah,
you know, maybe I'll be writing scripts for most of the week, or I'll be concepting or something like that. You know, sometimes a lot of, I would say a lot of the meetings that I'm involved in are like reviews, not necessarily like a full blown official review, but it's like, hey, you know, creative director, can you know, look through some of my stuff before we bring it up to the bigger guns and stuff like that.
Kind of going up and down the chain.
Yeah. So they'll look at it and be like, okay, maybe you can push this a little bit further, or this is good, or, you know, maybe sit on this. So that's a lot of it, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think kind of if I really have like a routine, because it does depend so much on the project.
Do you get handed like a traditional brief that we learned about like in school from a strategist?
Yeah, you know, it is like a one-page document, and it's, you know, typically one page, unless there's like, you know, sort of like an appendix, but, you know, it'll say, you know, they'll give it like a title a lot of times, like, I don't know, I can't think of any like weird names off the top, but it'll be like the title. You'll get your audience profile, you'll get your, you know, strategy, your selling points, your insight, everything like that, all lined up. So it is
nothing too cool. Nothing too out of the ordinary from the theories that we learned at U of I.
No, not at all. I mean, and it's kind of interesting because, you know, sometimes you think like, oh, like, you know, is this really how it is? And there are, you know, in some places it's not like the real thing at all. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know I've noticed it. But in others, like a brief, at least for Highdive, I know it is the way we learn about it. And I think, and the more concise and the more kind of like, here's the pinpoint of what we want to do. This is like where we want the idea of this ad to land, the easier it is to write to it, you know, like
kind of like the end goal. Like this is what we want to achieve.
Yeah. If it can be put down to a perfect, you know, one sentence thing where it's like, this is exactly what we're trying to say, it's so much easier to write to, because sometimes there are more ambiguous briefs, and it's not for any lack of talent on any strategist side. It's just some projects are more ambiguous, and those are so hard to write to sometimes because, you know, you don't really have that kind of like North Star easy, like, all right, this is, as long, even if it's a crappy ad, at least it ends up there, you know? So sometimes you kind of like are just shooting in the dark a little bit.
Yeah. It's like the term, like the ends justify the means. And then, so you get the traditional brief, and the parameters there are parameters in what you want to achieve. And so creatives, not just you, maybe it is just you, but that's probably pretty general among all your coworkers and everybody out there in the creative world. You know, you want to have that North Star, as you say, within that brief.
Yeah. if there is that sentence, if you can at least say, because a lot of times too, it's kind of interesting is like, you'll have sort of checklists, not, like, does it have this exact thing? But you'll sort of think like, let's say you're coming up with, I don't know, like let's say you had, I don't know, like Ritz crackers. And they were like, we have this budget and we want to put out an idea or like something cool that'll gain traction in like Q1. It's like, you can throw social, digital, experiential, blah, 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 anything like that. And I know in some cases we've had it where it's like, okay, well, does this idea fill kind of this like category of like, I don't know what Ritz might be, but let's say Ritz was all about like, I can't think, like laughter. Like maybe
Sure.
is it funny? Is it fun? Is it like playful? Is it, something like that? So you might like see it, does an idea fill these boxes? Yes or no?
Who's creating
And then
those
you can
boxes?
I believe, a lot of times it's strategy. That's another kind of cool thing too with Highdive is there's kind of a lot of sort of crossover is like, account can be a little bit more involved
Sure.
in certain parts and creative gets a little bit more involved in places they might not always be.
Yeah.
So, but that's good because then the brief is something we can all kind of agree on and say, all right, this is like, this is a really good representation of what we're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Sounds like a fun place to be with 30 amazing people.
Yeah. I couldn't have asked for any better and just trying not to blow it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure work is coming in nonstop with all the recognition that you guys are getting. Rightfully so. I mean, 2 Super Bowl ads, right? Or 2 or 3 this past.
We had 2 this past year. Yeah. Or this year.
Yeah. I mean, that is crazy to think about. And the best one was the Groundhog one, and not far behind, I think, in my opinion, is the Rocket Mortgage one.
Yeah. I mean, they're incredibly fun spots. And like Bill Murray, I guess doesn't really usually do commercials. So
right.
The fact that he, did that, and I think it all lined up perfectly. It was kind of the stars aligned for an ad like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And did anybody like, so that they met and worked with Bill Murray, or was it another agency that took over for the production?
No. So, I mean, like I wasn't there. And so I'm just kind of going off of, people that I know talking about it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
They were like on set. They were,
That's awesome.
So like, as far as I understand it, because, I'm still pretty new, is like, you've got your agency people there at a shoot. You've got the client side there so there'd be G people. And then you've got the like production company and, everything like that. And then your actors. So they were on set. It wasn't an entirely,
that's amazing,
as far as my understanding, kind of Highdive thing.
You might meet some famous people. You probably will eventually.
I'm hoping for it. I mean, I'm realizing though, I gotta like kind of up my knowledge of modern famous people. And like
influencers.
Stuff like that. Cause
get on
like
TikTok.
Somebody will mention somebody and I'll be like, yeah.
All right. Anything that you want to talk about now? I want to start wrapping this up a little bit, but advice you might have, resources for up and coming advertising professionals, things that you wish you knew before you entered, anything. I'll give this last send off to you and just what you want the people to know.
I guess kind of a couple of things. I was trying to think about it earlier, but I mean, my big one is if you're a creative, put your work first. Not like in life, I think you have to have a balanced life, but I mean, I think there's always and I guess this goes for anyone really. There's always so much talk of like networking and like, can you do a cool thing, a cool stunt to get in the agency?
Yeah.
But I think, your luck with networking will only increase as the amount of effort you put into your work increases. So, I mean, as much as you can, make sure your book is looking good and, continue trying to put together kick-ass campaigns and push the envelope with them and things like that. Because I think, yeah, it's, if you can do a really cool networking thing, that's awesome. But once you've made that contact, now it's time to hand over your book. And if it's not up to par, there's not much somebody can do. So I think, always focus more on your book than kind of the interesting or cool way you're going to put it in front of people, I guess.
Yeah.
Somebody might disagree with me. I don't know. That was just what happened for me.
I like that.
And then I guess another thing too is I think it's really easy to, because I know I stressed out a ton with my book. I was a nervous wreck all the time, trying to put these campaigns together and stuff. I think, people say it all the time, but you really got to kind of take it easy when you're on yourself. And then when you're writing or doing your like designing and stuff like that for this student work, I mean, just try to have fun with it. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, there are more important things in the world with advertising, and 99.99% of the time, like no one's life is on the line or anything like that. Probably 100% of the time, but I don't want to make generalizations, but really try to just do interesting and cool work, have fun with it. I think that's why you're getting into it. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to be like, this needs like a Young Lions or something. I don't know if they have that, but
I think they do. Or
D. Yeah. But try to make something really fun, really cool, really interesting, and really make something that you're proud of. And I think it's hard to not get stressed out about that, especially now I'm talking from a place where I do have a position and I've kind of, I'm out of that limbo of being graduated and stuff, but really it's when you kind of free your mind up a little bit from worrying and to focus on what you're trying to actually do and focus on making fun work, I think you'll see so fast how things just start coming together.
This makes sense a lot too. If you're listening and you're not connecting the dots, which you should be able to, go to his LinkedIn profile, and then go to his portfolio or go to his resume. Like this resume I'm looking at here is awesome. It's hilarious. I can read a line at Black Sheep if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Pitched and wrote articles about serious stuff like diplomacy in LARPing, frat guy piercings, and philosophy majors. So and now if I could just show you my resume, I would, but it's just your traditional star method results at the end that are probably a little bit fictional. This is amazing stuff. Like this is a real deal. It's quick. It gets the point across and it's funny. Like I like that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I guess you're entering into a world where, I mean, it's full of crazy, fun, interesting people. And so I think most people are crazy, fun, and interesting. I think they just got to be crazy, fun, and interesting,
Yeah.
And so,
takes courage.
It's, I think being yourself, being somebody, being true to yourself with this stuff, I think is really important. And so if it's, making a fun resume or putting some funny stuff on your website, I think go for it. You're not going in to be an accountant, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think you've got a little bit more room to kind of not take things so seriously, do the work seriously, but have fun with it. It is such a fun industry. It is so exciting. I'm only just getting started and it is so cool. And I think knowing that at the end of all the hard work, it's there and it's fun I think everyone should, realize it, putting in the work is worth it. It is so much fun once you get in, and I want more cool people to hang out with. So I need more people to get in this.
Yeah. We're coming. Thanks for paving the way. And, thanks for coming on. we'll wrap it up there, man. This was a great
Yeah.
story. I appreciate you coming on. And people,
Absolutely.
go ahead and reach out to him on LinkedIn if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
You can just ignore him like a lot of people, or you can talk to him.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, they better send me a fun and interesting note. That's
don't do the.
They got to
template.
tell me what their favorite ad of mine is before I, I'm a busy guy as a junior copywriter.
Awesome. And then we'll have you put it like your recommended resources and stuff like that on the Instagram. But that's it. Thanks for coming on.
Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I appreciated you reaching out. It's really exciting.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering podcast. This was Tim Flemke. He's a rock star once again, and I'm sure you can tell by listening to this entire episode. So go connect with him on LinkedIn or go to our Instagram at EnteringAd to connect with him. Have to thank some people. Obviously, we got Mikey Malarkey, our audio technician. Can't do it without you. We got Buchan Zhang, our graphic designer, creative director that does an amazing job with all of our designs. And the Midnight Oil student advertising team from the University of Illinois. Thank you to all of you guys. Can't do it without you. And to our listeners, we will see you next week. Take care.